On the night of October 1, 2017, the bustling streets of Las Vegas were alive with excitement. Thousands of music fans gathered under the neon lights for the Route 91 Harvest Festival, an annual country music event. What should have been a night of celebration quickly turned into one of the deadliest mass shootings in American history. In a hotel room high above the crowd, Stephen Paddock, a seemingly ordinary man with no criminal history, was preparing to carry out a meticulously planned attack. In just a few minutes, his actions would change the lives of more than 800 people forever. But who was Stephen Paddock? What drove him to commit such a horrific act, and how did he go unnoticed until it was too late? In this video, we dive deep into the life, preparations, and aftermath of the Las Vegas shooting, seeking answers to the questions that still haunt many. Hello everyone. Welcome to True Crime. I would appreciate it if you can subscribe, like and comment. Today we are going to be talking about the Las Vegas Massacre. Stephen Paddock was born on April 9, 1953, in Clinton, Iowa, into a family that would soon face serious turmoil. His father, Benjamin Hoskins Paddock, was a bank robber who gained national attention when he was placed on the FBI's most wanted list in the 1960s. In 1960, when Stephen was just 7 years old, FBI agents arrested his father in Tucson, Arizona. Shortly after, Benjamin escaped prison, leaving the family behind and creating a lasting void in Stephen's life. This event forced his mother, Dolores, to raise Stephen and his 3 brothers alone. The family relocated to Sun Valley, California, a working-class area in Los Angeles' San Fernando Valley. The neighborhood was industrial, dusty, and overshadowed by pollution from nearby power plants. According to classmates, it was a place for families struggling to make ends meet. Stephen's early environment was marked by economic hardship and instability. In school, Paddock was a bright but reserved student. Known for his skill in mathematics, he often excelled academically but remained socially isolated. He rarely participated in class discussions and had no notable close friendships. Classmates described him as a loner who kept to himself, often seen sitting alone during lunch. Despite his intelligence, he showed little interest in extracurricular activities or engaging socially. One classmate recalled a math test where Paddock quickly outperformed others, highlighting his intellectual capabilities. However, his reserved nature extended to all aspects of his life. He was described as enigmatic, someone who rarely spoke unless directly addressed. Despite his potential, his upbringing in a difficult environment seemed to limit his ambitions. During his childhood, Stephen briefly worked as a paperboy, delivering free newspapers in his neighborhood. This job, along with casual chats with neighbors, made little impression on those who encountered him. Although he played sports casually in elementary school, he wasn't particularly athletic or popular. After graduating from high school, Stephen Paddock pursued a quiet and relatively unremarkable path into adulthood. Despite his mathematical talents, he didn't channel them into higher education at prestigious institutions as some classmates had anticipated. Instead, Paddock took a more conventional route, eventually earning a degree in business administration from California State University, Northridge. In his 30s and 40s, Paddock worked various jobs, including as an auditor and accountant, showcasing his aptitude for numbers. One of his more notable roles was at Lockheed Martin's predecessor, an aerospace and defense company, where he worked for a brief time during the 1980s. His career later shifted toward real estate investments, which became his primary source of wealth. He owned multiple properties across California and Nevada, eventually selling many for a profit, securing his financial independence. By the 2000s, Paddock had accumulated significant wealth and began focusing on his passions, primarily gambling and traveling. Known as a high roller, he frequented Las Vegas casinos, where he spent long hours playing video poker and other games of chance. Unlike typical gamblers, Paddock approached gambling analytically, leveraging his understanding of probabilities to minimize losses and maximize his playing time. Paddock's later years were defined by his preference for a private and solitary lifestyle. He lived in various retirement communities, including in Florida and Nevada, with his last residence being in Mesquite, Nevada. Those who encountered him described him as quiet and reserved. He traveled extensively, going on numerous cruises, including trips to Europe and the Middle East, often accompanied by his girlfriend. Although he had two short-lived marriages earlier in life, Paddock never had children and maintained limited connections with his family. By all accounts, he seemed content in his isolation, keeping a low profile and avoiding significant interactions with neighbors or the larger community. As Stephen Paddock moved further into his later years, his life took on an increasingly insular and unconventional pattern. Having amassed financial independence through real estate investments and his disciplined gambling habits, he no longer needed to work. However, this newfound freedom seemed to amplify his solitary nature. Paddock spent much of his time in casinos, where he was a familiar but private figure. To the casino staff and other patrons, he was known as a high-stakes video poker player, a calculated gambler rather than a reckless risk-taker. He lived comfortably, alternating between quiet residential communities and frequent stays at hotels near casinos. Despite his apparent self-sufficiency, Paddock's detachment from others deepened. His interactions with family dwindled, and his lifestyle became more reclusive, characterized by minimal personal connections and a preference for keeping his thoughts and routines to himself. This chapter of his life, while outwardly uneventful, would eventually culminate in actions that no one around him could have foreseen. Stephen Paddock's preparation for his act of violence was deliberate and thorough, reflecting months of detailed planning. It began well before his arrival at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino and showcased a chilling level of foresight. Paddock legally acquired a massive cache of firearms over the course of a year. His purchases included high-powered rifles, most modified with bump stocks, enabling them to mimic the rapid-fire capability of automatic weapons. He also bought high-capacity magazines, scopes for precision aiming, and bipods for stability. To maximize damage, Paddock stocked thousands of rounds of ammunition, including armor-piercing and incendiary types. Paddock scouted several high-profile locations. Reports indicate that he reserved rooms overlooking events like Chicago's Lollapalooza Festival and Life is Beautiful Festival in Las Vegas. While he did not act on these opportunities, these reservations showed that he was calculating the logistics of executing an attack. Paddock carried out surveillance on other outdoor music venues and festivals. He searched online for information about crowd density, venue layouts, and the most effective ways to inflict maximum harm. He also investigated police response times, testing how long it would take for authorities to arrive in an emergency. About a week before the attack, Paddock checked into the Mandalay Bay Resort under his own name. He specifically requested a corner suite on the 32nd floor with a commanding view of the Route 91 Harvest Festival, an outdoor country music concert venue across the street. Over several days, Paddock methodically transported nearly 24 suitcases to his room, using bellhops to assist him while raising no suspicion. These suitcases concealed his weapons and ammunition. Inside the suite, Paddock set up his operational base. He drilled a small hole in the door to observe the hallway and installed cameras, including one on a room service cart outside the door. These allowed him to monitor anyone approaching, giving him advance notice of any potential disruption to his plan. Paddock arranged his weapons, ammunition, and equipment throughout the room. Each weapon was strategically positioned for efficiency. He also brought tools, suggesting he had contingencies for obstacles. His online searches included ballistics data, ensuring he could aim with maximum precision from such a distance. October 1, 2017. Stephen Paddock began his day at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, where he had been staying for nearly a week. Surveillance footage shows him moving about the hotel casually, exhibiting no outward signs of distress or unusual behavior. Hotel staff noted nothing suspicious as he ordered room service, gambled briefly in the casino, and interacted politely with employees. Throughout the day, Paddock remained primarily in his suite on the 32nd floor. He finalized his preparations, ensuring that his firearms and ammunition were positioned strategically throughout the room. He adjusted his makeshift surveillance system, which included a camera mounted on a food cart in the hallway and another within the suite to monitor the entrance. Paddock likely spent some of his time surveying the festival grounds across the street. The Route 91 Harvest Festival was in its third and final day, with over 22,000 attendees gathering to enjoy performances by popular country artists. His corner suite provided a direct line of sight to the venue, enabling him to identify his targets. As the evening progressed, the festival's energy reached its peak. At 9:40 p.m., country music star Jason Aldean took the stage for the headlining performance. Paddock, meanwhile, remained in his suite, preparing to initiate his attack. At precisely 10:05 p.m., Paddock smashed 2 windows in his suite using a hammer. This gave him unobstructed views of the crowd below. He began firing into the crowd with a modified rifle outfitted with a bump stock, allowing it to mimic an automatic weapon's rapid-fire capability. His initial shots caused confusion, with many attendees mistaking the sound for fireworks. Paddock continued firing in bursts, targeting the dense crowd and law enforcement personnel. Over the course of 11 minutes, he unleashed over 1,000 rounds, killing 60 people and injuring more than 800. At one point, he fired at nearby aviation fuel tanks, likely attempting to cause an explosion, though these efforts were unsuccessful. By 10:15 p.m., the gunfire stopped. Paddock ceased firing and barricaded himself in the suite. Law enforcement officers, now aware of the shooter's location, began evacuating nearby hotel rooms and moving toward the 32nd floor. More than an hour after the gunfire ended, SWAT officers breached Paddock's room using explosives. Inside, they found Paddock dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The suite was littered with 23 firearms, thousands of spent shell casings, and ammunition stockpiles. Investigators also discovered tools and devices that suggested Paddock had meticulously planned every detail of the attack. The aftermath of the attack left investigators, survivors, and the public grappling with an overwhelming question: why? Despite an exhaustive investigation involving interviews, financial records, and digital searches, authorities were unable to determine a definitive motive for Paddock's actions. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit concluded that he acted alone and without clear political, religious, or ideological motives. Instead, the investigation suggested that Paddock was a deeply narcissistic individual seeking notoriety through a calculated act of mass violence. While he exhibited signs of mental and physical decline, including chronic pain and gambling debts, these factors alone did not fully explain his decision. His financial standing, though diminished compared to previous years, was still substantial, and there were no indications that he sought help or shared his plans. The Las Vegas community, along with the entire nation, was left reeling from the devastating attack. In total, 60 lives were lost, making it the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Over 800 individuals were physically injured, with countless others bearing emotional scars. In response, the city rallied with slogans like #VegasStrong, organizing vigils, blood drives, and fundraisers to support victims and their families. Survivors shared their stories, highlighting the acts of heroism and humanity that emerged during the chaos. The tragedy also reignited debates over gun control. A key focus was the bump stock devices that Paddock used to increase the firing rates of his semi-automatic rifles. Within months, the U.S. government moved to ban bump stocks, marking one of the few legislative responses to mass shootings in recent years. The events of that night shattered countless lives, leaving behind a legacy of pain, unanswered questions, and a deep sense of loss. For the survivors and the families of the victims, healing is a lifelong journey. Yet, amid the tragedy, stories of heroism, resilience, and unity emerged, reminding us of the strength and compassion that define humanity. This attack remains a chilling reminder of the devastating impact of violence. It also serves as a call to reflect, not only on the policies and factors that allow such tragedies to occur but also on how communities can come together in the face of unimaginable adversity. As we remember the victims, it's crucial to keep their stories alive, not as a symbol of what was lost but as a testament to the enduring spirit of those who continue to rebuild. Together, we must work toward a future where such horrors are no longer a reality, ensuring that their memories inspire action, compassion, and change. Vegas Strong isn't just a slogan, it's a promise to honor those we've lost by striving for a better tomorrow. Thank you all for watching this. I would appreciate it if you can subscribe, like, comment, and tell your other friends to come on and join the